I'll do the list in order. So these are Ethiopia calla lilies. These are the big, tall calla lilies that come up in people's yards in the spring. And you wouldn't think so, but they make a really interesting focal flower for a wreath, really delicate. This is cardoon. This is the cousin of the edible artichoke. This is a very thorny version. The flower heads are tighter. As you can see, this one was picked at the right stage, and these are a little pale. I ran out. I gave you guys all the good ones in your boxes. If it was for me, I would probably pull this part out, and then I'll just do this real fast. This is kind of fun, because sometimes when you miss something, it's not compost. It just has changed its form. So remember that when you're working with things. Here's another flower that people don't really think about drying in its floral stage, but I love its whimsy. This is Echinacea, Purpurea. That's an herbaceous perennial. Oh, I meant to go through, like, this is I think it's a tuber. This is an herbaceous perennial. This is an herbaceous perennial. This is Larkspur. This is an annual. We direct sow this in the fall for a spring and summer flower. This is, oh, I always mess this one up. This is Lipidium emerald beads. I always want to call it green pearls. So emerald beads, it fades a little bit as it dries. It's a really great annual. Again, we sow this in the fall, but you can grow it in the early spring as well. Really great woody shrub. Lavenders, some are better than others. This is a English variety, which is the shorter mounds, and then there's the taller ones as well. I chose this one. It's more fragrant, or it has the fragrance I want for this wreath. And then the flower heads are shorter, and they're going to be a little less brittle for what you're doing. Okay, so this is Nigella. This is a purple variety of Nigella pod. These pods are a little bit smaller because this is actually a second cutting. So we didn't cut through on the first one, and we didn't till in, and it just kept growing. So I said, go cut that, because that's cute. So that was, again, seeded in the fall and grows and harvested in like end of June for the pods. This is purple oregano. This is a herbaceous perennial. Peonies. There's our favorite Sarah Bernhardt here, and the dark one's Ben Franklin, and I can't remember that one. Nice. Well, another flower you wouldn't necessarily think to dry and doesn't look amazing when I kind of look at it like this, but once I get it into the wreath and I actually show off each individual flower, this Ranunculus is a lot of fun. This is a Shirley Poppy, and that we sow in the fall or the early spring, and that's a seed. This is Snowball Vapernum. So you wouldn't think to necessarily dry that. This is harvested at the stage that it's just turning white, and you dry it hot and fast. Here is an annual that we sow in the greenhouse, and then we put our plugs out into the field. And this is the purple status, the annual sinuata. Two different kinds of straw flowers. As we were making this list, this is kind of funny. They just got reclassified from helichrysum to zero prism. So I gotta stop saying heli. So maybe I'll say zero-y, I don't know. So the straw flowers. And then these are annuals. And then here's another herbaceous perennial. This is Achillea, double the pearl, or no, this one's Achillea angel breath. And then this is foraging on my friend's property. So I just want you to think about all the different ways that you can get your dried flowers and just collecting different things. This is the sword fern that is a native where we are down in Eugene. So fun, just keep your eye open. This is even pretty when it's already brown and you're cutting it back and you're about to throw it in your compost. You know how many times I want to dig through people's composts, or like follow that trailer down the road going to the green waste place. I'm like, oh my gosh. So we're going to be making our wreath out of these items. There's 17. It's kind of ambitious. That's sort of who I am. I kind of go over the top. More is better. So this is our normal sizes for our bunches. So, and then we have porcelain vine in our field, and we twist up wreath bases. This should be about a 10-inch wreath base in your kit. So sometimes your bunches are held together with little pieces of crochet thread, and sometimes they're held together with little twist ties. Those are just to hold your bunches together. We do grow porcelain vine. It could be invasive if you're not careful. We prune it heavily every year. It doesn't escape where we are. It's not on any lists where we are, but I wouldn't want anybody to go and plant it unless they're like ready to be in charge of it. Sort of like getting a puppy. So, yeah. So we grow it. It makes gorgeous, gorgeous berries that are literally like porcelain colors. Sometimes they're purple, like gray, purple, blue berries, and they're little clusters. The leaves look like grape. It's really fun to watch it because for me, it grows up and to the east. So when I go to pull the vines down, I just go to the base or I go to the tip and I pull it off. And I do have a lot of Instagram saved stories and lives that show you how I make, oh, and even a reel. I think I made a reel just recently. And then on our YouTube channel, we put the one I made for you, Deborah. So here's my base. And then we just tie it up, and then you can watch my lives to show you how that goes. So I'm gonna, I know you can't quite see exactly what I'm doing, but I'm gonna set it down and see. Oh, okay, so see which way. It's a little wobbly this way, but I like how that looks, so I'm gonna take off the things that are making it wobbly. Yeah, I like how that lays because remember this is going against a wall, so your table is your wall. And I like how this looks. So I'm gonna build my wreath. Now if I had a hot glue pot, I'd save that for my hot glue pot for making things later. Cute little tendrils. Can't help myself. They're getting saved anyway. So I'm gonna build from here to here. So my first bunch is going to go on this side, and I'm going to bring it over, and we're going to cover up our wire mechanics with the ribbon on the other side. So this makes life easier. You take your wire, and you're not going to go around your wreath. Oops, my wreath wants to escape. That's okay, because we're going to wire it. It's not going to get anywhere fast. So my wire is going to go through the wreath, not around the wreath. Because if I went around the wreath, after I twisted it shut and tried to spin it on, it would just go spin, 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 spin. I want to have it catch. So I have my two ends of my wire. I'm going to hold them in my hand, and I'm going to twist my wreath base, sort of like a bag of bread. So I twist it on. And then I'm going to lay it down and try to remember the way I was going. So this is my top. This is my bottom, but because I want to work ergonomically, I am putting this in front of me. So this is my top, so I've just twisted it. So I always want to work with my piece in front of me. And then after I've twisted it up, I'm going to wrap it around 3 times. And Beth, would you mind coming up so I can look at the wreath one last time? Maybe 4 times. So I'm gonna make sure it's nice and snug, it's not going anywhere. I'm keeping my wire short. And I'm keeping it in front of me. And I just wanted to see what pattern I used again. Isn't that funny? You can't quite always remember these things. Okay, so again, this is the top. Everything's in front of me. My wire's short. It's in front of me. Again, I think this is really important. It's not for everybody in the world, but I like to drop in and I like to pull towards me. And the reason why is you get the best torque, and your flowers twist the correct direction. They don't peel out of the wreath, they get pulled into the wreath. So any mechanics don't show. And we'll get there. I'll talk about the mechanics. So basically, this is a mechanic that we just created right here that we're gonna cover that with our first bunch. Something that's really, I just broke this down into quite a few little pieces. I'm not gonna break down my whole pile. I'm just breaking down what I'm using, and I'm gonna hold a little pinch. I'm not gonna use all of it. And we can sweep the floor too, if it makes your life easier to clip. Yeah, we have brooms. We can clip onto the floor. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut down this beautiful sword fern in half, and I'm going to use 2 pieces of it here in the front. On the first piece, I'm going to put one up from behind and one on top to curve out of my wreath, like that. And I'm just gonna build, this is no bigger than my hand. The part that I'm gonna tie onto is right here. I'm pinching it with my fingers. It's no bigger than my hand. So we're keeping everything small, petite, cute. You might wanna pull it down a little bit. Break your pieces down a little bit if you're working on it right now. If you ended up with a piece if you have a piece like this, I want you to break it down like that. And I want you to keep your pieces really short. So, okay, I've done that. I could build more onto here, but it might be easier to just get your first base on, put it on like that. I don't know, can you see me? Okay. I'm gonna come around with my non-dominant hand and hold it in place. And I'm gonna go around. I'm gonna give it a nice tug. Don't be shy. I want it to feel that sort of sink a little bit. And now that's on. And now I can add to this. I love this line. I love this. So I'm just gonna add a few things here. And when I'm using them, I'm pulling the heads up like that and putting them together.
So Bethany, are you trying to maybe use 3 distinct botanical elements for each cluster, or do you have a rule of thumb?
There's no rules.
Okay.
There's just no rules.
Whatever pleases you.
Yep.
Okay.
Want you to be happy.
Well, we're happy, aren't we? Let's give her a happy hoop.
Well, give me 10 minutes and then you're not going to be so pleased with me. So as we're adding, again, you want to remember, we want to make our bunches the same size. At least for this particular wreath, the way I'm trying to show you, the bunches are similarly sized. I'm breaking this because I'm just so used to breaking things down with my hands. And when I lay things in, I'm making sure that you can see each thing. So if you can't see each thing, then it's a waste of materials. Again, this is the size of every bunch is no bigger than my hand. So that's just sort of a really good gauge to keep your wreath and even all the way around. So setting your next bunch on, you want to be careful not to go directly on top or directly below, but you're going to want to sort of help it, nestle it, mush it into its friend a little bit so that it is cohesive. And then I'm going to drop in and pull towards me. And now I want to make sure I'm using all my fun special bits and remembering to add. So this is my base. I'm going to use this in every single bunch that I use, this Lipidium. And I did break off some of these pretty tendrils, and I'll just work them in. I have this long line flower. I'm gonna put that on the outside, not on the inside. It will show a little bit better, and it will make the wreath a little bit nicer that way. Now, when I use something small, just like the poppy with my Nigella pods, with the poppy pods, I'm gonna cluster them, but not totally pack them together. And I kind of want to pop them over the top of another flower because it presses it up. And then in the wreath, they're going to stand up and have some dimension. So that way your wreath doesn't look like a matted amount of flowers. Oh, I forgot my pretty straw flowers were over here. Now straw flowers, you can break them down so that you're not wasting anything. Again, put their little heads together. I like to nestle straw flower heads into my bunches because they can, with humidity, their heads can droop a little bit, even though they're dried. And so it's good to do that. Now remember, it's sort of like playing cards when you do your base. So when you have your bunch, it sort of fans out. And then with the lavender, I'm just gonna pull a little cluster out like that and keep it together. And I like to put it on the edge. So again, here's my little bunch. And then I'm going to, oh, I forgot that maybe before I put that in, I want to keep remembering to use my fern because that helps it look cohesive since I started with it. Again, I'm nestling it in. You should have enough dried flowers to be able to make this wreath, but if you don't, I brought plenty of extra. I have extra little bunches. If you feel like some of your mechanics are starting to show on the inside of your wreath, you need to come back and maybe lay something in there and then wire it in. So we dry our flowers in two different ways. We have a large 3-story barn. Now remember, I did grow up drying my flowers in my closet when I was a kid because I didn't hang out my clothes. I just had piles of clothes. So I would hang up my stuff in my closet. So a dark area is better so that the light doesn't sun bleach it, unless you want it to sun bleach it. And then I would, so for us, let me start again. 3-story barn, we dry flowers on the 2nd and the 3rd floor. We hang them upside down. We have fans running constantly. And we also, and they're up there for 3 weeks to 2 months, depending on like what month it is, how hot it is, and also like the density of the flower. So the first one we do is this Snowball Vapernum. As you know, the Snowball Vapernum blooms in the spring, and so these are woody stems. These take a long time to dry, so these are on the 3rd floor in the spring. But then, say, purple oregano and lavender, you harvest at the end of June, and then they're in the barn on the 2nd and 3rd floor on the hottest days of the year for us, and then they dry really quickly, 2 to 3 weeks. There's another place on the farm that we dry our flowers is we have quonsets. They're really simple structures. They're made of rebar and remesh, and we put clear plastic over them for our seedlings in the spring. And then in the summer, we put in some supports, and we put black plastic over the top of them and have wires in them, and we hang our dried flowers in there. And we can only do that during the hottest months of the year. So here's my pretty ranunculus. I'm gonna cluster them because I think they're so pretty. They look like, I don't know, petticoats to me. Little tiny, I wanna make flower fairies. So I was just adding in here some lavender to cover up any of the mechanics on the inside, like that. And I'm turning it to make it the way I want it, like so. Remember to pull tight on that wire and keep it short. You don't want it to run away from you. So I'm just gonna keep adding my beautiful flowers. I put in my cluster of the poppies up the back. I'm gonna come in here with some of that beautiful yarrow. Maybe I'll put in my calla lily, isn't she sweet? And try not to cover anything, but give everybody their own space. Oops, I already used that. That's too close to the color. That's too close to the color. So if I don't like something, I'm just gonna break it off and then add it in. Put in my ranunculus. Don't feel rushed. There's nothing after us, so we have all the time. We can come back. And as soon as I'm done building this, I'm gonna jump off the stage and help anybody with questions or placement. So like, I didn't like where that calla lily was, so I'm just pulling it out. In fact, I'm gonna tuck her in on this side instead. Give him a good tug. Okay, and I was just about to kind of show you about the outside part too. So let me tighten up my wire here so I don't drop it. So you can see here on the back, everything, because everything was one size, it comes in like this. And I have made sure that when I'm working, then I put some pieces that are on the inside and some pieces that are on the outside. And it's really easy, of course, to see what's on the top. But I did come back and add this lavender because my mechanics were starting to show. So, yeah, you can see that, you know, like there's some areas where I use a lot of wire and areas where I don't. It's okay. Just keep adding to one area of the wreath that you like and then move on. You can't go back unless you unwire it or go home and use your glue gun, because I did not bring glue guns for you. This was an experiment. Make sure we can all do it. So I'm going to show you here, if you can see my wreath on the table, it needs more here. So I'm just going to keep, like I told you, and I'm going to use maybe a longer piece of this. I'm just going to keep adding to my area until I'm happy with my area. So I'm lifting up here and I'm adding to it. I'm not moving any further down my wreath. There's going to be a big wad of wire right there. I want it to look like this, where there's a little bunch at the end. So for me, this is my last bunch area that I'm working on. And I did cut off half of them, like I did on this one that I'm doing now, but I'm leaving now the pieces that I'm adding on little by little. So I'm just gonna add on my little by littles. And so I did the outside. Here's that outside for you. I came back and did that because it was bare. And now I'm going to add my top. And it's okay to go over the top of a few of those flowers because, again, it gives you depth. And I can see through it. I know I'm not going to totally cover those up. And as I pull on the wire, it causes my flowers to lift upwards. Okay, so use up all your fern. So this is a really great place to remember that you have the fern. It helps sort of echo back to the beginning of your wreath. Bunching up the little flower heads. Again, this is a really great place and a really great use for clusters of flowers like this, to put it on the inside to cover up any mechanics, like that. All right, so want to put these beautiful focal flowers on, bring them, but I want to put a little padding behind it, as I call it, some little floral padding. Color. So I have my Larkspur and my purple Oregano to bring the line all the way around. And give it a little tug and hold it up. Cardoon can be spiny, so be careful. I'm laying it in and then I'm going to bring in some more of my flowers. There should be enough to finish your wreath. If you feel like you are short on flowers, there's some extras that you can come up and add. So this Snowball Vapernum can be fragile sometimes, so I'm protecting it here with my line, why do I always say that? I'm just gonna look at Lipidium. Straw flowers. Here's that big, beautiful peony I've been saving. It has a bud on it, which I'm gonna pop off and maybe place in a different spot. I'm not cutting them really short. Again, this is my last bunch area, and I'm wanting to make sure that it has sort of that bouquet bunch look end. So here's my spot. That goes right in there. Hold it in with my thumb. And again, you can do this one piece at a time. It's okay. My wire just got really long. Let's see, I'm just looking around my table. I want to use up what I have. I accidentally gave myself extra cardoon and calla. Sorry. Don't want to cheat. So I'm going to bunch up these straw flower heads. Put in my extra Echinacea. They're just sort of glob. And I'm doing that on purpose. I want it to be a fat, colorful bunch. And I'm pulling down, and it's actually bending a little bit. And that, because that's going to be my last area before the ribbon starts. Because I'm building this on a wreath base that I took the time to actually make, and I want to see it, and I don't have anything against using a wire base, but I don't want to look at a wire base, but I want to be able to see part of this beautiful porcelain vine. I love the rusticness of it. I like looking at the stems here at the end.
It's so pretty. So that the base is part of the design.
Yes.
Love that.
Definitely. When I'm choosing, like when I'm laying it down on the table and I'm kind of flopping it around like a fish, like which way is it gonna lay best? I'm also looking at it and saying like, who's got the best little wigglies and who should be like shown off? You know, because like maybe there's a spacing that's really nice on it. Again, I didn't buy expensive ribbon. I went to the craft store and went straight to the 100% linen department and chose a really nice palette of colors that I thought you would all enjoy. Again, if you want a different color, Beth will walk around with the box and you can choose a different color. There's 5, 6, I don't know. 2 feet of wire. After I'm done, it's nice and snug, it's not going anywhere. I did not give you all wire snips. Don't do this with your clippers. Just make one clip with your clippers. I'm so sorry, Corona. Thank you for letting us use your tools. I don't like nicking blades, so I'm just gonna give it one quick snip. If you have wire cutters, I would recommend doing that and saving your tool. Set that aside. I always lose my paddle wire. So now I'm coming through and I'm just gonna, I call it stitching the end. So I'm gonna try to hold my wreath at this angle. I think it might be easiest for everybody to see. I'm going to go to an inconspicuous spot. First I'm gonna give my wire a little curve like that, sort of like a suture needle or a, I don't know, what do you call it, like a carpet needle or something. Then I'm gonna go around one of my pieces of my wreath base, and I'm going to pull tight and down up against the wire I was just using. You can see I used a lot of wire here at the end, and I'm just going to keep going and doing that over and over and over. So once I have gone around 3 to 5 times and I feel it's really secure, it's not going to go anywhere, it's wire. I don't need to tie a knot. I just need to wrap it around something a lot of times. And then I'm just going to take my extra wire, wrap it around my fingers, and tuck it into the back of my wreath. So here's my wreath. It feels like it's a little chunky here, so I'm going to massage it a little. These wreath bases are not all the way dry, which is okay. You can see I can really bend that. They will finish drying at your house. Let's see. Mine came with the purple. This is my mom's color purple. This is why I chose this one. This is Dottie Duger purple. You know, it's just Dottie Duger purple. So I'm just gonna tie. I like to go around like a scarf and bring it forward so it's kind of loose, and I'll hold it up so you can see what I'm showing. So I'm going to just sort of arrange my scarf the way I like it, set it down again, and then I'm going to tie a very loose knot. So if you can see this, can you see that? Let me do it this way so you can see. So it's a loose knot. Again, it's not going to run away. It's just going to hang on your wall. Ta-da! So that's the completion of it. So this could be outdoors on a covered porch. If it's in the full sun, it's going to sun bleach out. If it is in, people, you can hang your wreaths any way you like. I like them this way. If it's on the porch, like we're in Eugene, Oregon. If you leave your socks out on the front porch for a month, they'll mold, in the wintertime. So this is my wreaths that I have like 3 or 4 wreaths hanging on my front porch all the time, and they're moldy right now because it's really damp, and that's just what happens. I'm not going to try to save those wreaths. I'm just going to enjoy them, take them apart and compost them. If you have it in the house, if you have it on a door, it will dry out and it will start to it will shatter every time you open and close the door. If that's not a big deal to you, don't worry about it. I would suggest a wall that doesn't get sunlight, that's not on a door or right next to a door, if you want it to last the longest. And then also, take these skills that you just learned and make lots of wreaths, and then have wreaths for different seasons. I have a friend who I give wreaths to constantly, and I'm like, what do you do with them? And she's like, oh, they rotate. So she has boxes that she carefully puts them in. I'm like, this is so crazy. to me, this is crazy talk, but she puts them carefully away in boxes and then pulls them out for the correct month of the year. So I'm like, okay, you do that, Kara.
Bethany, this has been so inspiring, and I just think everybody's having so much fun personalizing their wreath with what they like best in it. So you're going to come down and walk around and talk to people a little bit?
Yeah.
Good.